Hi again, folks, in the Cobb TV studio with Cobb Commission Chairman Mike Boyce. It's been a couple of weeks since we visited, but then all of a sudden a lot happened.
Yeah, it gets that way. You know, we have like a sine curve. You go up and then you go down. So last couple of weeks it was in the down part. And you know, people are busy and there's no sense just making something up to put on a video. But today we made up for it.
Well, we're taping this right after a commission meeting in which a large portion of that meeting was spent on the settlement that we've agreed to with the Atlanta Braves about some outstanding fees and costs, and it's something that's gone back and forth for several months, but now hopefully has been resolved.
Yeah, you know, it's all well and good to ask people to be patient and let the process work its way through to an ending where both sides can come out and say that they're winners. And we've had some loose ends involving this partnership with the Braves since I came into office. There were several that I had to deal with right after I was sworn in. One of them was the $14 million in infrastructure. Another one was the Braves Bridge. And now this one was on a $600 million project, which is what this one was. There are things that are going to pop up that you hadn't thought about or were emergent requirements that you never planned on that cost you extra money. And this settlement today takes care of all those loose ends. And we believed, the board has believed for several months that there was one bill that we really believed that based on the agreement between us and the Braves, we were owed money for a service fee involving water of about $1.4 million. And I told the Braves over several meetings that the board was insistent that this is a legitimate bill. But I also have been trying to illustrate the point that a partnership has to have two equal sides. But it only works when both sides respect each other. And so something like this, they had to have time to work through their as executives and through their board to decide on an appropriate response to us. So when we sent our letter out in May formalizing the request for the $1.4 million, it took between May and here the middle of September for us to finally come to a common ground, which I call a compromise, where both sides win. And I would ask people that wherever you read in the media leading up to this, that's just noise. What you should focus on is what came out of the discussion. And what came out of the discussion was that for the most part, we took all these loose ends and the county will now receive a check for about $1.3 million. And in my world, that we come out, that makes us a winner, all right? But the reality is we're both winners because we did this in a way that reflected the agreement between us that was written in 2014. We followed exactly what the agreement said we should do when we have some disputes. We approached it in a professional and respectful manner. And at the end, I think both sides can walk away saying that they're winners. And I don't know how that gets any better than that.
A lot of people have taken the correspondence between lawyers to indicate that the relationship between the county and the Braves had soured.
Well, you know, the media has its job, but I have my job. And my job is to reflect the will of the board when I negotiate with our partners in the Braves. And on this one here, we are very adamant that we believe this was a legitimate bill. And I just had to, you know, stay focused on the goal, which is to resolve these differences in a way that were both amicable, because this is going to be a relationship that we're going to have for at least 28 more years. And it doesn't do any good to start this relationship on the wrong foot. And B, to do it in a way that shows the people that we're very cognizant that these are your tax dollars, that you were probably not informed about very well about how we were going to use them with regard to this partnership. There were a lot of promises made out there, but we didn't explain the milestones of how we're going to get to these promises. But the reality is we are getting to these milestones, and we're getting them faster than we thought. And this is one of the milestones, this is one of the payments that's going to help us get to that milestone even faster. And it takes, you know, $1.3 million out of the, off the taxpayers' back that we can now put back into the general fund or to the water system and use for other projects in this county.
Speaking of which, you've always said that your goal in the long term would be to get the property tax component out of paying for the Brave Stadium.
right.
Today we had some news and took some action about the hotel motel tax in this county. That moves in that general direction.
It does. There's actually two kinds of hotel taxes. There's been one tax that has been around for many years, if not decades, that all hotels in Cobb County pay, and that's an 8% tax. And the use of that tax has been defined by the state legislature, how we collect the tax and how we allocate it. And it has to be used to pay off certain debts that have been obligated years ago. But that, because of the fact that we have more hotels in the county now as a result of the Braves development, that means we're bringing in more hotel taxes because more people are using it. We're using hotels in the county. So what's happened is that we had a projection last year of how much we would bring in from that hotel motel tax, and we missed it. But we missed it by $1 million to the good. So now we have an extra $1 million that we're going to put into a contingency fund that in December, when the board gets together to talk about the budget for 2020, 19 and 20, we will decide how we're going to use that $1 million. So that's the good news. There's the second hotel tax, which are for hotels just motels just within the Cumberland Special Service District, which is connected to the Braves agreement. That's a $3 tax. Remember, the first big one that's been around forever is an 8% tax. The second one is a $3 tax levied on hotels just within the Special Service District. And that was also by the Development Agreement, only to be used for certain purposes. So what we're trying to do is that we're working with the hotel motel owners because we believe that because they're bringing in more business, there's perhaps a better way they can be involved in the discussion about how to use that $3 tax. Initially, they were basically just told that they would use the tax for the circulator and to pay off debt service. Well, I've always said that, and I think Commissioner Ott, this is his initiative, that there's other things we could perhaps use that money for that'll help the county too. And we're in negotiations right now with them to use that $3 tax to meet our obligation of the circulator, to meet our obligation of paying the debt service, but also perhaps to use that money to help Cobb Tourism and Travel, because by providing more funding for them, they can do more marketing, which brings in more people. And then finally, to use the money within that special district for public safety around SunTrust Stadium. Why is that important? Everybody knows that the cost of public safety right now for providing support at events at SunTrust Stadium is somewhere around $900,000. So anything I can do to find money to replace that takes that money off the taxpayers' back, puts it back in the general fund that I can use for some other items throughout the county. So we're trying to find a way if perhaps we can use that $3 tax to also pay for part of the public safety requirement at SunTrust Stadium.
This will also, though, the way the numbers are shaken out, relieve some of the burden for the property tax people paying into the stadium?
Absolutely. Because remember, the $1 million, we pay money for other programs right now, but that extra $1 million, we can use that to perhaps, one option is to use it to pay down debt service. By paying down debt service, that means that's less that comes out of the general fund every year to pay for that. I think it was pointed out this morning that we all know that we have a $6.4 million obligation annually for our part of debt service for SunTrust Stadium. Well, we're down to somewhere around, $5.5 million this year. So we're all right in our first year. We've already reduced the burden for the taxpayer by $1 million. That's $1 million that we can use somewhere else in the general fund to meet some other services that the county may need.
Yeah. Another thing we talked about at the commission meeting today was the stop arm program. Mm-hmm. That is a problem that we all would like to go away, passing loading school buses, but clearly remains a problem. But dealing with these citations has been a problem in itself.
Yeah, I still can't get over the literally thousands of citations that are issued every year in Cobb County by people passing school buses that are stopped and loading or unloading children. I just can't get over that number. It doesn't compute for me because these are just nice people in Cobb County. So that doesn't strike me as the kind of behavior that I would find typical of Cobb County. But I can't fight the numbers. And the numbers are somewhere between 8 and 10,000 a year. And every one of those citations is reviewed by a police officer to make sure that's a legitimate citation. And then it's forwarded on to the company that provides the technology for the cameras. And then they mail that citation out to the violator. And then that becomes part of the court system. And so the law requires that all these funds for these violations that are collected have to be collected by the state court. And people have to do that. Just as importantly, every one of these violations, if somebody can, they have to be addressed in court. That requires, solicitors to address that. So it's all well and good to say, yeah, we need to be doing this, but it goes to that very heart of that issue that everybody forgets about the financial part of this good idea. And what I'm trying to do is, I don't want to use the financial part to discourage you from doing something, but I do want you to make the financial part part of our conversation about when we implement it. And I have seen too much since I came into office where we agreed to do something, like for instance, SPLOST project. Remember the big fight over the Sioux Mill Library and Cultural Center? We funded this SPLOST project and didn't fund $1 for the operations and maintenance of it. And I had to come up with $800,000 to put in front of the board to approve that. Well, we've got, slowly but surely, we're putting processes in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. But this school arm, this school camera, bus camera thing, just the stopgap between now and the end of December is $250,000 to do this. Fortunately, we have a lot of violators that are able to generate the revenue we can pay for this. So I don't have to use this money out of the general fund. But I would hope that in the future, we would have the problem, but it's a good problem, where once people realize we're going to enforce this law and it's going to cost them money out of their wallet, the violations will go down. Then what happens when you don't have enough violations to fund these positions? But I'll take that problem any day. And that's what I hope we would get. We just need to put all these pieces in place. To my surprise, it hasn't come up before this year, but clearly the state court, the solicitor's office, and the police have been eating these jobs out of hide. And they should be doing something else, but they have to be doing this because we all know that politically it is absolutely unacceptable to go back out and tell the public, well, we're not doing this because we can't afford it. That's an answer they do not want to have. Their job is, it's your job to enforce this. You figure out a way to do it, and we've done just that.
And it's frightening when you realize how many citations are coming in when these cameras are only on a small percentage of school buses.
That's a good
around
point.
the county.
Just a very few of the, I'm not sure what the percent, but it's less than 50% of the school buses.
Yeah, it's between 10 and 20, I think.
Yeah, I'll never get over that number.
And again, you touched on it. This program, these 5 positions will be really funded by the revenue generated by the violators.
That's right. I mean, I'm working real hard. No more, I hear the issue that we have too many people in government, and I just can't seem to come up with enough of the right illustrations to refute that. So, I'm also influenced by the fact that we have to make darn sure that if we bring more people into government, that they're funded by means other than the general fund. And there's a lot of checks and balances in place now to ensure just that. So even though you see these additional positions, they don't cost you, well, they may cost you the taxpayer money if you're the ones running around the school buses and get your car photographed.
Yeah. We haven't done this in a couple weeks, and I hear you've got some training ahead of you. So,
well, yes, every one of the commissioners, there is a core set of courses that we're provided the opportunity to go attend. I did one on human resources a couple weeks ago. I'm going to one in Leadership Institute up in Blairsville Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. There's 6 core courses that lead to a certification that, it's an option for the elected officials, but it makes you a better educated elected official. So this will be my 5th course, and somewhere down the road I'll get my 6th one. But I've been in office now, almost 2 years, and tell you how hard we're working. I can't find time to do all 6 courses. So that's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I know you're out this weekend. You're throwing out the first pitch at a.
I was, yes. Yeah, I was at Harrison Park. Boy, I tell you, it was just great sitting there and looking at all these families enjoying it, and baseball games, and there's a tennis center there. It's just a great day to just sit back and take in, the great atmosphere that we have here in Cobb, and seeing how so many people are simply enjoying their life. And as I tell people, we in government are doing our job when you take us for granted. And there was only 2 county employees running. There were literally probably 1,000 people at this park on Saturday, and there were 2 county employees. They're overseeing all these operations, but they were doing it in partnership with these leagues. And that just goes to show you, that this is the right place to live. We want you to come live here, and you can do so safely.
Yeah. All right, enjoy your training, and I'll remind everybody out there to stay in touch with Cobb County by subscribing to our newsletters. You can do that at cobbcounty.org. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll keep you up to date.
All right. See you next week.
All right.